Okay, I'm going to get started by welcoming everyone. Welcome to Wat Tung. Nice to see you guys. Welcome to everyone joining online as well. Today is our group learning program where I'm going to be sharing with you guys the teachings of the Buddha about the 4 stages of enlightenment and the 10 fetters. In this group learning program, I've been taking my time to really kind of give you an overview, but really go in depth about the Eightfold Path and helping you to understand the path to enlightenment, because we just restarted this program a few weeks ago. And now we're at a point where I'm going to be sharing with you that if you're learning and practicing this Eightfold Path, this core central teaching of the Buddha, that ultimately your mind's going to start moving through these 4 stages of enlightenment. So you'll be able to understand what these 4 stages of enlightenment are and the pollutions that are hindering the mind from being able to experience those qualities of mind. We're going to start our class with meditation like we do each day, where I'm going to do some chanting to ease us into the meditation. Then I'll come in with some guidance. There's going to be some quietness where we're all meditating. Then we're going to come out of that with some more chanting, and that's where I'll start today's class. So welcome to everyone here. Welcome to everyone joining online as well. If you'd like to join for meditation, maybe pull up a meditation cushion or chair, whatever feels comfortable for you, and then you're welcome to join in with the chanting. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakawa Potang Mahakawanang Apiwate Sawakato Mahakawata Tammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Mahakavato Sawaka Sankho Sanghang Namami Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti Piso Mahakawa Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vicacaranang Sammuno Sakato Rokavitu Anutero Purisa Dhamma Sati Satatawa Manusanang Poto Bhagavati. Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, and the upper body erect, just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath, a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathing gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. อะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธมหาเกวาโอตังมหาเกวันหังอภิวาเตมิสวากขาโตมหาเกวตาธัมโมธัมมังนามัสสามิสุปฏิปันโนมหาเกวโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมหาเกวาอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิจาจารนังสัมมุโนสกาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาดัมมาสติสัตตาตวามนุสนังโอโตภาควาติ Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation, once again, welcome to all of you guys. Welcome to everyone here at the temple, and welcome to everyone who's joining online as well. As I shared, today's our group learning program where I just recently restarted this program from the very beginning, where over a 7-month period, I gradually walk students through this book chapter by chapter, helping you to be able to understand the path to enlightenment. You can actually get this for free by downloading it from our website. You can take it and go print it if you like. You can get printed versions here by just reimbursing us for the printing cost. Or if your country has access to Amazon, you can get it on Amazon. And today is the last class where I'm kind of doing like an overview of the path to enlightenment, and next week I'm going to be starting with chapter 1. So we're going to be going chapter by chapter by chapter each Sunday, and then on Wednesdays I'll be teaching meditation. So this Wednesday coming up, I'll be teaching the loving kindness meditation. This is a meditation we just did at 6:30, but I'm actually going to be teaching it on Wednesday in this particular program. So today's topic is the 4 stages of enlightenment in the 10 fetters. This is helping to kind of round out our overview of the path to enlightenment, where I'm going to help you guys to understand the mind, that the Buddha discovered these individual pollutions in the mind. This is what's actually hindering someone from being able to experience enlightenment. So first, since some of you guys might not have been here when I've talked about enlightenment before, what enlightenment is where the mind's completely peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. The mind no longer experiences any discontent feelings. The mind has eliminated anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. This can all be eliminated from the mind through training the mind. But as long as these pollutions are in the mind, you can't experience that. You'll notice that when you get rid of these pollutions, that the mind is focused. You have concentration, clarity, and deep memory. You'll even notice that your personal professional relationships are really blossoming, because in the unenlightened state, when you have these pollutions, there'll be a certain amount of bitterness and hostility, some frustration, where the mind thinks that something external is causing your inner feelings, but what you can learn through the teachings of the Buddha is that it's your own mind that's actually causing these feelings. This is why you can eliminate them. And namely, it's these pollutions that are actually causing these feelings. By the time you uproot these pollutions out of the mind, you won't even experience a bad mood any longer. It's physically impossible to experience a bad mood. So I'm going to walk you through these 10 pollutions, helping you to be able to understand what they are and the symptoms of them. And we'll even talk a little bit about how to eliminate them, just as kind of like an overview. But when you're learning the teachings of the Buddha, it's important that you don't believe anything that's being shared. So don't believe what it is that I'm sharing with you. When you hear me talking about these pollutions, you're going to also hear me talking about symptoms that an individual experiences because of these pollutions. You can actually look at your own life and you'll be able to see that you experience these things, because I don't know you guys super deep. And when you hear me talking about these pollutions and what you experience because of them, then you'll know that this is actually true, that your mind actually has these pollutions, because you hear me talking about things that you experience on a day-to-day basis. And as we go, I'm going to pause so you can ask questions. If you're here at the temple, if you guys could use the microphones, that would be great. And for those of you guys online, you can put this into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom in the comment section, and I'll be able to see that. Or in Zoom, you can electronically raise your hand and ask any and all questions that you like. So these 10 fetters, they're referred to as a fetter because during the lifetime of the Buddha, if they were trying to keep you confined to a certain area, like a prisoner, they would put a shackle and a chain and a ball around your ankle. This is a fetter. And then they would just keep you trapped in this particular area. It would keep you confined in this open field, where today we put prisoners in jail cells, where during the lifetime of the Buddha, they just attached this shackle, chain, and this ball. This fetter was around your ankle. So when the Buddha discovered these pollutions in the mind, he refers to them as fetters because it's keeping the mind trapped in this unenlightened state, continuing to experience anger and frustration and sadness and all these feelings over and over and over again. But just like a prisoner, if you release that shackle off the ankle and now they're free, the same thing is true about the mind. That if you uproot these pollutions out of the mind is now free. Because when you're experiencing stress and anxiety, guilt and shame and fear and all these other feelings, your mind's not free. It's all bound up. It's congested with all of these things. So I'm going to walk you through this to help you understand the lower fetters, and then we're going to talk about the higher fetters. And then ultimately, I'm going to help you to see how by eliminating these, you move through the 4 stages of enlightenment. So this first fetter is called personal existence view. This is where the mind has the misunderstanding, the confusion, the misperception, the misunderstanding that this body or this mind is you and who you are as a person. And now the mind wants to be perceived by others in a certain way. So the mind will cling to this physical body, this self-image, or it'll cling to this self-identity that you're holding on to your mind, wanting to be perceived by others in a certain way. And if you're being perceived that way, you'll be happy. But if you're not being perceived that way, you'll experience painful feelings like anger, sadness, frustration, and others. So for example, if you've ever been in a social situation and you spilled something on your clothing and you were embarrassed by that, that's your personal existence view. The mind is clinging to this body, wanting others to perceive you in a certain way, and you can only be happy when they're perceiving you that way. When you're not being perceived that way, the mind experiences embarrassment or some other discontent feeling. If you've ever looked in the mirror and you saw a pimple or a wrinkle or a mole or a gray hair, or you started losing your hair and you were shaken up by that, that's your personal existence view, wanting to be perceived by others in a certain way and only feeling comfortable in that situation. If you've ever stood in front of your closet and you thought, who am I going to see today and how do I want to look? And maybe you put on a couple sets of clothes, you looked in the mirror, you're like, no, that's not how I want to look. But then finally you put on that final set, you're like, okay, that's how I want to look. And now you felt comfortable going out into the world. Or if you're like me, when I was a kid, I used to get gel and mousse and I would run it through my hair and I would try to get every little hair in exactly the right spot. And I couldn't go outside to school until I felt like I had every little hair in exactly the right spot. Right? And I would do this for so long, sometimes I would miss the school bus, right? This is personal existence view, clinging to this body, wanting others to perceive you in a certain way, and only feeling comfortable in that situation. But then your mind can have an identity as well, based on your culture, your ethnicity, your sexual orientation, your nationality, your job or occupation. You can cling to any kind of these types of things as who you are as a person. For example, maybe you have the identity of I am a Brit, or I am American, or I am an Aussie, or I am Lithuanian, or I am Mexican, or any of this I am around your culture, ethnicity, sexual orientation, your nationality, your job or occupation, or any number of different things. And now you can only feel comfortable when that's intact. So for example, if you were in a relationship with a boyfriend or girlfriend and you thought, I am a boyfriend, I am a girlfriend, I am a husband, I am a wife. And now when you guys were together, you felt somewhat comfortable. But when you guys broke up, your mind didn't identify with I am single. And you might have felt like you wanted to hurry up and get right back into another relationship because the mind thought that was the way to solve it. But it was actually this personal existence view clinging to this identity of who you think you are as a person. And you're not going to actually solve that uncomfortableness by hurrying up and getting back into another relationship. Or say you're at a restaurant and you have the identity in your mind of I am Canadian or I am American or any of this I am. And now 2 tables over, somebody's talking in a very fond way. Maybe they're saying all Americans are lovely and kind and warm and gentle. And you're like, wow, they're talking about me, right? And you get so excited about that. You get all these pleasant feelings. But then 2 tables over, somebody else is talking in a degrading and disrespectful way about people from America. And now because your mind thinks I am American, now you're angry or frustrated. And you can't control what other people do. You can't control what they say or what they do. You can only control your own mind. But as long as you have this personal existence view in your mind, you'll struggle and have difficulties in these kinds of situations because your mind is clinging to this, thinking that this is who you are. Or say you had a certain job or occupation and you thought, I am a police officer. And as long as you're doing that job, you feel great. But when maybe you retire, maybe you get injured and you can't do the job anymore, maybe you get fired or laid off, and now you're driving a taxi cab and you're disgruntled and feeling like less of a person because your mind is identifying with I am a police officer, but here you are driving a taxi cab, right? So your mind can cling to any of these number of things. You can even cling to your choices and decisions that you've done in the past and identifying with those as who you are. If you've used drugs and alcohol in the past, you might identify with I am an alcoholic or I am an addict. And people teach you this in order to teach you to never go back to those things again. But as long as your mind adopts that identity of who you are, you might have guilt or shame related to that, where that doesn't define who you are. If you chose to use drugs and alcohol in the past, those are just choices and decisions that you made. That doesn't define who you are today as a person. So you can shed all of that out of your mind where you can get to peace and joy and just realize that, yeah, those are decisions that this being used to make, but that doesn't define who I am as a person. So you can eliminate this from the mind where you can experience peace and joy. Because if somebody says, all Americans are blah, 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 okay, that's their opinion. They're not talking about me because I don't have that identity in the mind, right? Or if somebody says something about this body, they say, wow, you're so beautiful. You're so handsome. That shirt really brings out the color of your eyes. You're like, okay, well, thank you so much. I appreciate your kind words. It's very kind of you. Instead of, wow, they're talking about me. Because it's only a matter of time before somebody says something degrading and disrespectful about this body. And now you're going to be frustrated or agitated. But if you've eliminated this personal existence view and somebody says something like that, it doesn't affect you because you don't identify with this as who you are. So this path to enlightenment isn't about going out in the world and changing other people. It's about changing your own mind and how you relate to this world and how you process what you're experiencing within your own mind. That's how you get to the peace and joy. So this is personal existence view. And there's a lot of teachings that are going to teach you how to eliminate this. And I teach this when we get to chapter 16 of this book, because this is part of the ego. If you've ever heard of the ego, this is part of that. So you can actually eliminate this. Then there's something called doubt. What doubt is where you have doubt about the teachings and the ability of them to actually help you to attain enlightenment. It's pretty common for someone to have doubt. They might have doubt about the Buddha, the teachings, the community that you're part of. You might have doubt about your teacher and that person's ability to help you get to enlightenment, or you might doubt your own ability to get to enlightenment. And if you have doubt, that's normal, right? But the way that you eliminate this is not through blind belief or faith. The way you eliminate your doubt is through investigation and examination of the teachings. Because if you investigate and examine the teachings, then you reflect on them to verify if they're true or false. Then you practice the teachings of the Buddha, integrating them into your life. Over a period of time, you'll see that they actually work because you're seeing the condition of your mind improve. You're seeing your relationships improve. You're seeing your life improve. And you'll know that these teachings are actually working to help you. Because you know in situations where you're once angry and frustrated and agitated, and you'll be in those same situations and this won't be occurring any longer. And that's how you'll know that these teachings are working. So it'll take you a certain amount of time, but ultimately you'll be able to eliminate this doubt through investigation and examination of the teachings. So you don't eliminate this through belief or faith. There's no belief in the teachings of the Buddha. So if you have doubt, it's best to just admit it to yourself. Yeah, you have doubt. And now you use it as turn this into a positive for yourself. You can actually turn this into a positive where it's actually motivating you and encouraging you to investigate the teachings. Because if you have doubt and you just admit that to yourself that, yeah, you doubt whether these teachings are true or false, now you can turn that into an inquisitive mind where now you kind of roll up the sleeves and you sink your teeth in and now you investigate the teachings and figure out, do they indeed lead to enlightenment or not? So you can actually harness this to be a beneficial aspect of your mind rather than allowing it to plague your mind and turn into complacency where you push the teachings away, because that's the symptom of doubt. If someone doubts the teachings, they will push the teachings away. But if you turn this into an inquisitive mind, now you can sink your teeth in, investigate the teachings, and you'll be able to see the truth. Then there's something called wrong behavior and observances. There's two parts to this. I'll explain both sides and help you guys to understand it. So what wrong behavior is that in the unenlightened state, when you have these pollutions in your mind, there's going to be a certain amount of unwise moral conduct that you have on a day-to-day basis, that you interact with people in a bitter and harsh and hostile way, for example. Or maybe you're putting your expectations on people and trying to control people and force them to do things a certain way, or other aspects of your moral conduct. And as long as you're putting out that harmful moral conduct, it's going to come back to you. People are going to treat you the way that you treat them. So if you don't understand wise decision-making around your moral conduct, as you're putting out harm, this harm comes back to you. So how could you ever get to peace or joy if you keep putting out harmful moral conduct? Because it's just going to keep coming back to you. The way that you might think about it is it's kind of like an oil pipe. If you had an oil pipe and this oil pipe had busted and bursted and it was spewing oil all over the world, well, now you're experiencing all this oil in your house or in your yard or in your property. What you'd like to do is shut down that oil pipe so it's not spewing oil all over the world. So you'd like to shut down the unwise moral conduct that an individual has, and that's going to help you to improve your relationships and the way that you experience things in your day-to-day life. So in the Eightfold Path, which is the core central teaching of the Buddha, he shares with you what is wise in terms of your speech, your actions, and your livelihood. Not as rules or commandments, but just to be able to help you see what is wise in terms of the way to treat others. And then you'll notice that when you treat people that way, that you'll experience different results coming back to you. So that's the wrong behavior, is improving your moral conduct based on the Eightfold Path. Then there's something called wrong observances. What this is that if an individual believes that rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, and prayer and things like this is going to lead to beneficial results in their life, then they have what's called wrong observances. The mind isn't understanding what the true problem is in the mind and the true solution. The ultimate problem that the Buddha discovered in the mind is that the mind lacks wisdom. It has this unknowing of true reality, this some people call it ignorance or confusion or misunderstanding. And the way that you fix this is with wisdom and cultivation of wisdom. There's no amount of rituals that are going to help you to cultivate wisdom, because you can't pray your way to a better life. I can't sit here and sprinkle water on you and your life's going to magically become better. There's no amount of wafers that you can put on your tongue. There's no amount of incense that you can burn that's going to produce better results in your day-to-day life. In order to produce improved results in your life, you need to cultivate wisdom and make better decisions, and then you will experience better results. So by the time you've eliminated this portion of the fetter, you understand that rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, and things like this doesn't lead to improvement in your day-to-day life. Oftentimes people have eliminated this before they ever come and study with me because they know that I don't do these things. So that's why they oftentimes come to study with me. So maybe you've done these things in other places and you've identified and can see that, yeah, it's not leading to improvement in your life because you still get angry, you still get frustrated, your relationships are still challenged, no matter how many rituals that you're doing. So if you're seeing rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, and prayer associated with the teachings of the Buddha, it's not actually his teachings. He never actually taught those things. Even if you see it being done in a temple, even if you see it being done by an ordained practitioner wearing orange robes and shaving their hair, or white clothes and shaving their hair, that's not what the Buddha actually taught. So whether somebody chooses to do these things or not, that's a choice for them to make. But what the Buddha is teaching you is you need to cultivate in your mind the understanding, what is the true problem that you're experiencing, which is the lack of wisdom. And then what's the true solution for that is to cultivate wisdom. And there's no amount of rituals or ceremonies that's going to fix that. So whether you choose to do that or not, it's a choice for you. Maybe you're going out to an event with your family. Maybe a lot of people have gotten together. They're going to the church, to the synagogue, to the mosque, or to the temple or something like this. And you're going along with everybody to that event. And maybe you're going to go out to dinner afterwards. And maybe you're just hanging out with everybody and everybody's doing rituals and ceremonies. Maybe you're even standing there in the building and singing songs and having a good time. That's up to you, right? But in your mind, you understand, at the end of the day, you need to cultivate wisdom. You need to train your mind. You need to uproot these pollutions. That's what's going to lead to beneficial results in your life. So you'll be able to see that as you're progressing on the path, that by cultivation of wisdom, it's improving the way your mind's functioning and the way you're interacting in the world. Then there's something called sensual desire. If you ever studied the teachings of the Buddha and you heard about craving, desire, attachment, or wants or expectations or things like this, this is mainly what we're talking about, is sensual desire. That the unenlightened mind has this longing and yearning through what's called the 6 sense bases, where it wants permanently agreeable contact. And if it gets agreeable contact through the sense bases, then it will experience pleasant feelings. But if it gets disagreeable contact through the sense bases, it experiences painful feelings. So the sense bases are your eyes, ears, nose, tongue, the body, and then the mind itself. So let me give you some examples of these. Let's just say that you're walking down the street and you see with your eyes a parent and a child holding hands. Maybe it's a little kid. Maybe it's 3 years old. And they look so cute walking down the street, holding each other's hand, crossing the street, being so joyful during the day. You're like, that's so beautiful. Look at that. The little child's holding the parent's hand. Oh, that's wonderful. But now with those pleasant feelings, based on seeing something agreeable, you now turn the corner and you walk down the street and you see a parent slap their child across the face. Oh, if this is disagreeable to you, now you might experience anger or frustration. It's your sensual desire because your mind is craving permanently agreeable contact through the eyes. And you're not going to be able to see things that are permanently agreeable to you because you live in an impermanent world. So, of course, we're not talking about what's wise or unwise, because it's unwise to slap anybody, to hit anybody, especially a child. But that's not what's causing your mind to be angry or frustrated. It's the mind craving permanently agreeable contact through the eyes. Here's another example with the ears. Say you're sitting at a stoplight and somebody pulls up next to you with some music that you like, that you usually listen to this music. And you're like, whoa, that's my jam. All right, let's go. Party, 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 party. And you start dancing in your seat, having a good time, right? And then the light turns green and that person drives off and you pull up to the next traffic light. And now somebody else pulls up to you with some different type of music. And you hear this sound through your ears. And you don't like this music, and you get frustrated and angry. This is your sensual desire. The mind's craving permanently agreeable sounds in the ear, and you can't experience that because you live in an impermanent world. Or say you're walking down the street and you smell an odor through the nose, that there's a flower shop. You walk past this flower shop and it's like, wow, this smells excellent. Oh my gosh, I could stand here all day. This smells amazing. But then you walk a few more steps and you get a whiff of the sewer. Oh, You're repulsed by this and you're like, oh my God, that's horrible. Who put this here, right? Why don't they cover that sewer? This is the mind's central desire. It's not the odor that's causing your mind to be angry or frustrated. It's the central desire. The mind's craving permanently agreeable contact through the nose. The same thing's happening with the tongue, that you have certain flavors that you see agreeable and certain flavors that are disagreeable. There's probably certain foods that you long and yearn for, and then there's certain foods that you push away. You don't want to taste those foods, and your mind will be frustrated or angry or irritated if you experience that flavor. Same thing with the body and physical objects. Maybe there's certain fabrics that you put on the body and you're like, wow, it feels so good. But maybe if you put a different type of fabric on, you feel agitated or annoyed or uncomfortable. This is because of the body sense base. It's looking for permanently agreeable contact. But then there's the mind sense base. What the mind sense base is that there isn't any contact through the the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, or the body. It's just the mind itself. Let's just say you're sitting at a bus stop and you're thinking about something in the past that was pleasurable or painful. And now in the present moment, you're experiencing pleasant or painful feelings based on something that you're thinking about in the past. Maybe there was an ex-boyfriend or ex-girlfriend that you really enjoyed spending time with. And now in the present moment, you're having all these pleasant feelings about thinking about that in the past. Or maybe you had a very painful experience in the past with a boyfriend or girlfriend. And now in the present moment, you're thinking about that and you're experiencing painful feelings in the present moment. There's no contact through the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, or the body. It's just the mind thinking about that. And now in the present moment, you're experiencing either pleasant or painful feelings. And the same thing can happen with the future. The mind can be thinking about something in the future. Like maybe you're going on holiday to Australia or to Thailand or something. Maybe you're in a business meeting and there isn't any contact through the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, or the body. It's just your mind thinking about your trip to Thailand. And now in the present moment, you're having pleasant feelings. But you could also be in the present moment thinking about something in the future. Like maybe you're going to give a presentation to your boss and all the upper management at your company. And maybe you feel stress and anxiety about this. This is your mind having that longing and yearning for something in the future. And now the mind is wanting agreeable contact. And when it experiences something disagreeable, it experiences painful feelings. So the mind sense base can experience by itself, without any contact through the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, or the body, it can experience either pleasant or painful feelings based on the mind itself. So that's what central desire is, where the mind is longing, yearning through the senses, wanting permanently agreeable contact. And when you get it, you'll get happy and excited. But when you don't get it, you'll get painful feelings. And one of the things that happens when those painful feelings come up is the mind firmly believes it's something external, that it's something external, like some person or something external that's causing that. And now what happens is the ill will arises. That's the fifth one here. This ill will arises where there's this bitterness and harshness and hostility. So that person pulls up to you with the music that you don't particularly like, and now you get grumpy and irritable and frustrated. Maybe you wind down your window and you say something bad to them, or maybe you honk your horn at them, or maybe give them the middle finger or something like that. This is the unwise moral conduct based in your ill will, the bitterness and harshness and hostility. So as long as an individual has central desire in their mind, and that central desire is not getting fulfilled, then the ill will is going to come up, where now the mind is going to be angry and frustrated and irritated about what's going on, perceiving the problem to be external when in reality it's actually inside one's own mind. So there's solutions for these too. There's breathing mindfulness meditation, and the entire Eightfold Path is helping to eliminate central desire. The loving kindness meditation and the entire Eightfold Path is helping to eliminate ill will. So this is why I started this program with learning that and sharing that. So if you haven't learned that, it's okay, because it's been recorded. It's in our books. There's plenty of opportunities for you to learn the teachings that you need to be able to uproot this out of the mind. But as long as these pollutions are in the mind, you're going to still experience discontentedness. So this is what we call the lower fetters. And I'm just going to pause here and see if anybody here at the temple or anybody online has questions. And if you have questions about any of these, let me know. And then I'll just handle them one by one. And then if there's no questions, we'll move on to the next 5. So you guys have questions here? Anybody online? I usually lose my voice by the end of the day on Sunday because I'm teaching all day long. All right. I don't see any questions anywhere. Okay. Let me just check one more place. Okay. All right. So now let's move to the higher fetters. The higher fetters, I'm going to talk about number 6 and 7 at the same time because these are very similar. There's desire for form and desire for formless. What this is where an individual has a desire to exist in the world, either existing in one of the 5 realms. Now, early on in someone's journey to enlightenment, I don't suggest that you try to go out and independently verify the 5 realms of existence of hell, the animal realm, afflicted spirits, which are like ghosts, the human realm, and the heavenly realm. But you can actually independently verify that these 5 things actually do occur and that they really truly exist, including the cycle of rebirth, that there's this continuous rebirth. You can actually independently verify this. I have in volume 11, chapter 105, 17 different criteria of how to independently verify the cycle of rebirth. But it's in volume 11, chapter 105 for a reason, because it's not something that you need to verify right up front when you're first starting on the path. But nonetheless, what this is where somebody has a desire for existence in one of these realms. So desire for form is desire to exist in the animal realm or the human realm. I don't know about you, but at one time in my life, I was like, man, it'd be really cool to be a bird. I really want to be a bird and like fly around and check everything out and look at everything. I thought that would be really cool to be a bird. I had this longing and yearning to be a bird. That's a desire for form. Or if you have a desire where you're holding on to this life and you're wanting to be in this life, where you're longing, yearning for it to be permanent, if that's the case, when you get close to death, you will have painful feelings because you don't want to let go of this life, not understanding that this life is impermanent. And some people even have fear of death. By the time you get to enlightenment, you won't even have fear of death any longer. So that's what desire for form is, where you have a desire to exist in the animal realm or the human realm. Desire for formless is a desire to exist in one of the formless realms of hell, the afflicted spirits, or heavenly realm. There are people that have a desire to exist in hell. There's not very many, but there are people like that in the world. More commonly, what you see is people have a desire to exist in heaven. They think that heaven is a permanent existence, and what they're doing is they're trying to be a really good person during this life, and they're thinking that they're going to get sent to this wonderful place where it's paradise and they're going to live there forever and everything's going to be perfect. This isn't actually true. You can see the world around you is impermanent. It's constantly changing, that these realms are not permanent. Heaven is not permanent, but oftentimes people think that it is. So people have this desire to be in heaven. So that means that they're not content in the present moment. They're not peaceful and joyful in the present moment. They have this longing, yearning for something after this. What the Buddhist teachings are helping you to do is get to peace and joy now in the present moment, not to long and yearn for something after this. So by the time you eliminate desire for form and desire for formless, you'll have contentedness in your current existence. You'll have peacefulness in your current existence, and you won't have fear of death at all. So there's teachings that will help you to be able to train your mind to let go of this. It's called contemplation of death or reflection of death, and this is something that people learn as part of their journey. Then there's something called conceit. What conceit is where the mind is having arrogance or pride, where you're measuring and comparing yourself against other people, where you're judging people and you're looking down on some people and you're looking up to other people with such awe and thinking that they're so far above you. And now your mind is all shaken up by that. So maybe you go into a social situation and your mind's trying to constantly figure out who's above me and who's below me. Because maybe you talk to one people in one way and you talk to another group of people another way. Where this is coming from is our animal existences. When we were in the animal realm, we actually needed conceit. We wouldn't have survived without it. When we were a pack of wolves, we needed this pecking order. Who's the alpha male and who's the alpha female? Because they're teaching us how to hunt and how to survive as a pack of wolves. If we didn't know that, we wouldn't have been able to learn to hunt and survive as a pack of wolves. Or when we we were a herd of elephants, we needed to know who's the matriarch of our herd, because she's going to show us where the food is, where the watering holes are, where the migration paths are. Otherwise, we would have just been roaming in the forest without having that understanding. So as a animal, we needed to have this strong pecking order in our mind. But when we come into this human realm, we actually don't need it. And it just stands in your way of having harmonious relationships with people. Because if you look down on some people and you look up to other people, your mind's going to have to constantly be figuring this out. And now you're going to talk to one group of people one way and another group of people another way. And for example, when you go into your boss's office, you might think that they're above you. And now you're all shaken up in that situation, and it hinders you from being able to perform well in your career. So you can get rid of this, where you don't judge people, you don't measure and compare them. That way you can just treat everybody equally, and you can just see yourself as equal to everybody. So if you see somebody outside sweeping the street, you might be like, hello, sir. Hello, ma'am. Good morning. How are you? But then if you see the king of Thailand or the queen of Thailand walking down the street, which I doubt you'll see, but if you saw that, you'd be like, hello, sir. Hello, ma'am. How are you? Nice to see you. You just treat everybody the same. Right? This is helping you to keep your mind peaceful and joyful, because you don't have to think, how am I supposed to treat this person versus that person? You just treat everybody equally and everybody the same. That's part of where the peacefulness is coming from. So getting rid of this conceit, there's various teachings that are going to help you with that. And when we get to chapter 16 of our book, I'm going to teach you how to eliminate this with very specific practices. Then there's something called restlessness. What this is the mind's overactivity. If you've ever sat somewhere and you just kind of like bobbed your knee like this, or you just kind of tap your hand, or you tap a pencil, or you tap your finger, that's because of your overactivity in your mind, your restlessness, and it's coming out through the body. So if you have obsessive thoughts where you're just thinking over and over and over and over and over and over the same exact thing, and you just can't let it go out of your mind, that's the restlessness of the mind. So your mind can be trained to eliminate this. Then the fetter of all fetters is called ignorance, or the unknowing of true reality. This is what's keeping all the other fetters in place. Where the mind just lacks wisdom, it doesn't understand, it has misperception, it has confusion and misunderstanding. Some people call it delusion, where the mind just doesn't understand what it doesn't understand. It doesn't understand things like the three universal truths, the Four Noble Truths, the Eightfold Path, the five precepts. It doesn't understand the natural law of Gotama, of cause and effect. It doesn't understand the 10 fetters, doesn't even understand they exist. The mind goes around the world believing that it's other people that are causing these feelings, because we just haven't had the opportunity to cultivate wisdom to see the truth, because we were never taught that growing up. That's the difference of growing up in a Buddhist country versus growing up somewhere else, is you can actually learn this wisdom and you can see the truth of what's actually causing these feelings instead of going around blaming everybody else. So this ignorance, or this unknowing of true reality, will keep you stuck in this unenlightened state. So you need to be able to cultivate wisdom. That's the solution. And that's why there's no belief in the teachings of the Buddha, because you can't eliminate ignorance through belief. Because with belief, you don't know it's true or false. You're just believing it because someone convinced you to believe it, or you convinced yourself to believe it. So you would like to get to the point where you learn teachings, you investigate and examine them, you reflect on them to verify if they're true or false, and then you practice the teachings, integrating them into your life. And now when you see they're working, now you have wisdom. You know the truth. So that's the ultimate fetter that's keeping all the other fetters in place. So you need to cultivate wisdom to eradicate this. And that's why you're not interested in ever believing anything. Don't believe what I say. Don't believe what I write in books. Don't believe what anybody else says. You need to be an independent practitioner where you're looking to cultivate wisdom. You're not a follower. You're not a devotee. You're an independent practitioner where a teacher is like a tour guide pointing out for you the things that you need to learn and understand in order to be able to cultivate wisdom, but you don't believe that person. You need to independently verify what it is that they're teaching you. So that's why I use examples here, so you can see what your mind's actually doing here. Because when you go out into the world with a lack of wisdom of these natural laws that the Buddha taught, you'll tend to make unwise decisions, and it's going to produce unwholesome results for you. So you'd like to cultivate wisdom so you can go out into the world and navigate this world peacefully. It's just like when we didn't understand the natural law of gravity, We struggled. We had difficulties because we had ignorance or this unknowing of true reality. We lacked wisdom of the world around us. And that's why we fell down. We bumped our elbows. We broke our toys. We had all these different troubles. But slowly but surely, we cultivated wisdom of this natural law. We never believed it. We can see the truth for ourselves, that it exists. And now that we can see the truth, now we make wiser decisions. That's why we don't struggle with the natural law of gravity anymore. We climb ladders, we ride bicycles, we get on airplanes and fly all over the world. You might say that we fully awoke to the natural law of gravity. What it means to awaken is to cultivate wisdom. So that's what you're doing on this path, is you're cultivating wisdom about these natural laws that the Buddha taught. But prior to that, the mind has this ignorance or this unknowing of true reality. And that's why you're always looking to cultivate wisdom and independently verify the teachings. So do you guys have any questions on the higher fetters, either here or online? Anything you guys would like to ask? So the question for those of you guys online was, what is another word for fetters? What you can think of this as is the pollutions of mind or defilements, or sometimes the Buddha uses the word taints. This is the taints or the defilements or the pollutions that are in the mind. One of the ways you can think about it is like if there's the sun and there's the clouds in front of the sun, the clouds represent the pollutions or the fetters. And what you're doing on this path is you're peeling away the clouds, you're peeling away the pollutions so that the rays of the sun can shine through. So while we're talking about attaining enlightenment, one of the ways you can think about it is the mind's already enlightened. You just got to get these pollutions out of the way so that you can experience the qualities of enlightenment. The only difference in the analogy here is the clouds are going to come back and block the sun, where once you get rid of these pollutions, they're gone. They can never come back. It won't actually come back into the mind because they've been completely uprooted. The mind's essentially been rewired, that it doesn't actually have these any longer, and it's impossible for them to ever come back. That's why enlightenment is a permanent mental state once you attain it. Mm-hmm. Okay, so the question here, if you guys wouldn't mind using the mics for the future, it's okay. So the question was, do you need to address the fetters in order? You don't have to address them in order. Like, for example, right now, you could be working on conceit. Conceit is like your arrogance, your pride, your measuring and comparing. You could be working on that right now. Whenever you see your mind doing that, you can train your mind to cut that off and let it go. But the Buddha put this in a specific order for a reason, because you need to be able to eliminate them as you go, because you wouldn't be able to eliminate some of these without eliminating the others first. So this is kind of like a personal growth plan for you. This isn't something that you run out and talk to your mom about and say, hey, Mom, I eliminated the fetter of doubt. Aren't you so proud of me? Right? It's more of like a personal growth plan. You might talk to your teacher about it, thinking that, hey, I think I've eliminated personal existence for you. Can you help me here? Right? But nonetheless, this is like a personal growth plan because, for example, you wouldn't be able to eliminate your restlessness if you hadn't already eliminated central desire, because that's part of what's motivating the restlessness in the mind, is your mind's pulling through all these sense bases. You also wouldn't be able to eliminate conceit without first having eliminated personal existence view. So you would need to do it that way. So these are actually in an order for a reason, because you need to peel away some of them before you peel away the others. But that doesn't mean you have to wait until one is gone before you start working on the others. Mm-hmm. All right, I don't see any other questions anywhere. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you these 4 stages of enlightenment, because as you're eliminating these fetters, your mind's moving through these 4 stages of enlightenment. Now, during the lifetime of the Buddha, he referred to them as stream enterer, once returner, non-returner, and arahant. And it's helpful to learn them this way because it actually has meaning behind it. But the way that we kind of commonly refer to these today is the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th stage of enlightenment. And your mind is actually enlightened when you're in the 4th stage of enlightenment. But it helps you to understand what a stream enterer is, because just like a log enters a stream and is going to eventually get to the ocean, the same thing is true that once you get to the 1st stage of enlightenment, you're going to get to enlightenment. It's only a matter of time, right? So that's why he calls it a stream enterer. And then you'll see some of these others have a reason for why he's calling it that too. And then there's something called a Buddha, which is not a stage of enlightenment. I'll explain to you guys what this is. So here, this first stage of enlightenment, as a stream enterer, this individual has eliminated the first 3 fetters. And when you eliminate these first 3 fetters, you're going to notice a significant decrease in your discontentedness. Whatever your anger and frustration and agitation and all those other things were prior to the first stage of enlightenment, it's just a mere fraction of what it once was previously. You'll notice the significant decrease in your discontentedness. And if somebody dies in this stage of enlightenment, they're going to come back into the human world a maximum of 7 times. Again, I realize I'm talking about the cycle of rebirth here, or at least referencing it, and these realms of existence. And oftentimes at the beginning of someone's journey to enlightenment, they haven't independently verified these types of things. And you don't need to verify it right now, but just understand that this is what's being taught and just catalog it in your mind. And then in the future, when you verify this, then you'll know, oh yeah, that's right. This is what the Buddha taught about the first stage of enlightenment. So this first stage of enlightenment, you're going to see significant progress here. Then the second stage of enlightenment, you've already eliminated the first 3 fetters, and now you've thinned out number 4 and 5. Thinning out a fetter is like it's been reduced, significantly reduced. If you can think back to maybe when you were a teenager, you might have had a lot of rage, a lot of anger, but then as you've aged, maybe that's kind of diminished over time. That's what it means to thin out a fetter, that it's not as strong as it once was. So for a once returner, they've thinned out number 4 and 5, sensual desire and ill will. And if you die in this stage of enlightenment, you will come back into the world one more time as a human being, and you will get to enlightenment in that existence. And in this second stage of enlightenment, you're experiencing even less discontentedness than you did when you were in the first stage. Then there's the third stage of enlightenment. This is called a non-returner. You've eliminated the 5 lower fetters: the personal existence view, doubt, wrong behavior and observances, sensual desire, and ill will. It's been completely eliminated. By the time you get to the third stage of enlightenment, you're very infrequently experiencing discontentedness. About once every 3 months, once every 6 months, you're experiencing some discontentedness. It's very infrequent and it's very insignificant when it occurs. In fact, when it's occurring, it lasts for just a few seconds and it's all inward. The people around you probably don't even know that you're discontent. The mind is just quietly irritated or annoyed. So you need to be really diligent in this stage of enlightenment because there's not much discontentedness and the mind can become somewhat complacent in this stage of enlightenment. So you need to stay dedicated and determined and diligent to continuing to grow and develop your practice. And if you die in this stage of enlightenment, you will be reborn into the heavenly world and you'll attain enlightenment from that existence. But then there's something called an arahant. We would refer to this individual as an enlightened being. They've eliminated all the 10 fetters. The mind's completely purified. There are no more pollutions in the mind. This individual is experiencing 1 year, 2 years, 3 years of complete peace and joy. There's no discontentedness whatsoever, not even the slightest ickiness in the mind. And this is how you'll know that your mind is actually enlightened. So this is called an arahant, or an enlightened being, where they've purified their mind of all the 10 fetters. So any questions on these 4 stages of enlightenment? Oh, by the way, for a person who dies as an arahant, they're not going to experience rebirth in the cycle of rebirth. But what comes next for them, the Buddha actually doesn't teach it. He leaves it as an undeclared teaching. He intentionally calls it out and says, I'm not going to teach what comes next for an enlightened being. Because by the time you get to enlightenment, your mind's so peaceful and joyful. What comes next, it doesn't matter. You're already peaceful and joyful in the present moment. So the Buddha's not teaching you about what's next. He's not teaching you to long and yearn for something next. He's teaching you to get to peace and joy in the present moment. So he leaves it as an undeclared teaching. So there may or may not be something next for an enlightened being, but we know that this individual isn't reborn in the cycle of rebirth. And again, these are things that you can independently verify as you cultivate the wisdom to do so. So let me know if you guys have any questions on any of these. Okay, looks like we have some questions coming in on YouTube. So let me see what we've got here. Let's see. This is an individual here. It says, good morning from Toronto, Canada. I would like to ask, even though I feel like I know the answer, which is to follow the path, but maybe I'm just thinking out loud for the better of all. If it if I feel like I'm not a victim, but observing my fetter with another person's fetter. For example, when they show this anger towards me and I feel my response, whether it's personal existence or ill will, but maybe you can help me identify whether I'm in my observations and my discontent reactions. Thank you. And I understand that they are creating their own anger's response from their own mind. But in my current state, I still find myself struggling, not responding. Okay, so if you're experiencing anger when somebody's being disrespectful or hostile or bitter in their speech, there's definitely central desire there where your mind is craving and longing, yearning for this person to speak to you in a certain way. That's the mind wanting agreeable contact through the ears. And you need to understand that you're in an impermanent world, that some people are going to talk to you polite, kind, friendly, and respectful, and others are going to be disrespectful. And that's your choice of who you choose to spend your time with. But if you choose to move away from a relationship where someone's disrespectful, just moving away out of the relationship doesn't solve the problem, because there's still central desire inside the mind, and you need to eliminate that, because as soon as somebody else is disrespectful, you're going to be irritated or frustrated or annoyed again. So you need to eliminate that from the mind through training of the mind. So there's definitely central desire there, and there's ill will that's coming up, the anger, the hostility, and the bitterness. Whether you'll know that it's personal existence view or not is you need to look inward and see, what are they saying? If they're saying degrading and disrespectful things about this body or who you are as a person, then yes, there's personal existence view involved as well. It's typically never just one fetter. In this case, it's 3 fetters, and there can even be conceit in there as well. So it's typically not just one fetter that's involved with any bout of discontentedness. There's usually multiple fetters, but you'd like to look at what is the primary fetter. And that's where you need to have your own mindfulness developed, where you can look inward to be able to see what is really truly being triggered. Because by you understanding what the fetters are and what the symptoms of them are, you'll be able to identify what fetters are being triggered and then apply a certain solution or a certain prescription. And where you have trouble with that, you can schedule personal guidance sessions with me, and we can meet online or we can meet in person. You can go to our website, buddhadailywisdom.com, and you can schedule personal guidance sessions, and I can listen to what is the situation in detail, and then I can ask you some questions, and then we can narrow it down for you. But definitely those are the 3 or 4 fetters that you would like to look at, is central desire and ill will, of course, and potentially personal existence view and conceit as well. Okay. I don't see any other questions anywhere. Okay, so now lastly, just to finish up and wrap up our class, is there something called a Buddha? Some people will tell you that everybody is a Buddha, or you have Buddhahood, or you have Buddha nature. This isn't actually true. The Buddha never actually taught any of that stuff. A Buddha is a very rare type of individual in the world. You'll be able to get to enlightenment, but you won't be a Buddha at that point. So a Buddha is an arahant. They've purified their mind of the 10 fetters, but they've done it in a unique way, which is very rare in the world. They meet these criteria, that they have attained enlightenment by themselves without the help of any teachers or any guides. They then dedicate the rest of their life to sharing their independently discovered teachings with countless people, and countless people will get to enlightenment during that person's lifetime. Then they preserve their teachings in such a way that countless more people will get to enlightenment after their death. So these are the 3 primary criteria of what makes a Buddha a Buddha. And this type of individual is very rare in the world. And you can see that you're not going to be a Buddha. You're going to need help and guidance along the way. And you don't necessarily dedicate your life to sharing the teachings. You might be a politician or a business owner or a stay-at-home mom or stay-at-home dad or something like this. You can do anything and everything you would like to be able to do as an enlightened being. So these are the 3 main criteria of what make a Buddha a Buddha. But then also, they have a deep, profound memory that they can remember countless details about their current life and their past lives too. This is actually how they get to enlightenment without the help of any teachers or any guides, that they accumulate wisdom over multiple lifetimes and they apply it in their last life to be able to then actually experience enlightenment. Then they can quickly determine the condition of an individual's mind by spending time with them, because they can observe the fetters in each of their students' minds. And this is what makes a Buddha effective at being able to help countless people get to enlightenment, is they can observe the quality of their students' mind and then offer them teachings to be able to help them to progress on the path to enlightenment. And then lastly, a Buddha is going to be a living, breathing, walking example of their teachings. Whatever it is that they teach, they're going to be practicing those same things as well, because they understand that their students are learning just as much through their spoken words as they are through their actions. So a Buddha is going to be a living, breathing, walking example of their teachings so that their students can see how to practice the teachings on a day-to-day basis. And this is going to help their students to be able to learn how to train their mind to get to enlightenment. So these are the qualities of mind and the practices and the things, the criteria that an individual is going to be practicing as part of being an actual Buddha. And this type of individual is very rare. The last one that the world's currently aware of existed over 2,500 years ago. And the world's not aware of another Buddha that has existed since his lifetime. And we refer to this person as a fully, perfectly enlightened one. Because an individual who has teachers, if they're learning from someone who isn't a Buddha, they're going to have certain baggage. They're going to have certain things that they're doing that didn't actually lead to their enlightenment. So maybe 5%, 10% of the things that they're doing didn't lead to their enlightenment, but they're actually enlightened, but they're still maybe doing a certain meditation that didn't actually really contribute to their enlightenment. So that's why they're not fully, perfectly enlightened. But an individual who's a Buddha, if they actually try a certain meditation and it doesn't work to improve the condition of their mind, they'll discard it, because they don't have teachers or guides. They're looking for the truth. And then once they discover that truth, they spend their life illuminating that path, making it very clear for everybody to be able to see what is the path to enlightenment. So that's why we refer to them as a fully, perfectly enlightened one, because by the time they get to enlightenment, they know the path to enlightenment inside and out, backwards and forwards, left, right, up, down. So this is what an actual Buddha is. And this is a very rare individual in the world. So any questions on this? Anything you guys would like to ask? No questions here? Yes, you have a question? Yeah, if you could get a mic, that'll help the people online to be able to hear. You just press the gray button and you'll see the lights come on, and just wait a second or two, and then you'll be able to talk.
Okay. When I think of it, like as a human, we experience a spectrum of emotions, experiences, and seems like to be enlightened, you have to like kind of be devoid of negative emotions. Like when you said like what's that? Like the conceit and ill will and the personal existence view.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, how is it to be a human and to be enlightened? Is it a human with a pure mind is to be enlightened, or?
Yeah, you gradually train your mind to get to that purified mind. Mm-hmm. Because in the unenlightened state, you can only be happy when certain things are happening. If the weather is this, if my mom and dad do this, if my brothers and sisters do this, if my boss does this, if I have this kind of house, this kind of car, if I have this much money in my bank account, then I'll be happy. But then that stuff all wears off anyway, because it's conditional. And that means you're shrinking your ability to be happy. This is why some people are old and grumpy. Not everybody, but some people, because they have all these cravings, all these expectations, and they can't be met permanently. But if you wipe all that stuff clean, now you can be happy no matter what. If it's sunny outside or raining outside, you can still be happy. If your bank account balance is here or here, you can still be happy. It's called unconditional happiness. So in the unenlightened state, you're only experiencing conditional happiness. There has to be some condition met, and that condition can't be met permanently. So that's why your happiness is temporary. But by the time you get to enlightenment, your happiness is unconditioned, where your mind is cheerful and bright and glad and uplifted at all times. you're not forming your feelings based on external circumstances. So that's what the mind's able to do. But oftentimes people don't even realize this is a possibility because you didn't necessarily grow up learning this kind of thing. So now that you're an adult, you can actually learn and understand, and now you can actually create real progress by learning and developing on this path. And now you can see the possibilities that your mind actually has to be able to experience this.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That helps
welcome.
a lot. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay. I don't see any other questions anywhere. So what I'm going to do then is I'm just going to end class by thanking you guys. That's how I start and end each class, is thanking students for learning and growing and developing, because as you learn and grow, it's helping you, it's helping those close to you, and it's helping all of humanity become a better and better place. Because as you eliminate your anger and your hatred and your ill will, that's going to help you so that you can be more and more peaceful. It's going to help the people around you that they're not experiencing that bitterness and harshness and hostility. And it's helping the wider community where you're not having this ripple effect of anger and hatred and ill will throughout the community. So thank you for deciding that today's a day you'd like to learn something about the teachings of the Buddha to help yourself. If you guys would like to learn more, there's plenty of opportunities for you to do that. For those of you guys that are in the program and that are continuing to learn and really getting started with this group learning program, I suggest you start reading this book if you haven't already. Start with the preface and then start reading chapter 1, because next week I'm going to teach chapter 1. Next week, chapter 1 is universal teachings, love, no harm, and be a good moral person. This is the 3 universal teachings that you'll see across Christianity, Muslim teachings, Buddhism, Hinduism. I'm going to show you how these things actually have a lot of similarities, because some people like to talk about the differences, but if we talk about the similarities, you can see whatever you've learned in the past can potentially be helpful for you, but there are certain things that you've learned in the past that aren't exactly the truth. That's why your mind still experiences anger and frustration and all these other feelings. So I'm going to help students to be able to learn chapter 1 next week. And then all this week, Monday through Friday, I have a Foundation in the Path to Enlightenment course here, where from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. each day, I'm going to be sharing all the foundational teachings to help somebody to understand how to get on the path to enlightenment and really get started with the teachings of the Buddha. So if you guys would like to join any of these things or others, we have social events, we have tours where I take people out to temples. All of it's available for you at no cost. Even the books and everything, you can get all these things, even personal guidance and everything. So thank you for all of you guys here. Thank you for everyone online, and perhaps I'll see you guys in a future class. Be well and take care. Sawadee krap. Sawadee krap.
Thank you again for watching. Enjoy your meditation. Look forward to seeing you online and answering any questions that you might have. Thank you so much.